Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Friday, May 30th, 2025, and you're listening to Alex's News. The weather in Riverside today will be warm, with a high reaching 91.8 degrees and the low settling at 67.3 degrees. Remember to stay cool and hydrated as you go about your day. First up, we'll examine the significant challenges facing colleges and universities across the United States as we delve into the lasting repercussions of former President Trump's visa policies. Then, we turn our attention to California, where we'll discuss the latest developments surrounding Governor Newsom's actions concerning Medi-Cal benefits for the state's senior population. All these stories, along with the day's other top headlines, are coming up right after this on Alex's News. Stay with us. Welcome back to the morning news. U.S. college campuses are reportedly feeling a profound chill, reeling from the Trump administration's recent policies impacting international students. This situation is prompting widespread fear and a sense of repression, threatening what some are calling a serious brain drain for the nation's intellectual capital. For more on this, we turn to our expert reporter, Ethan. Ethan, it sounds like universities are facing quite the academic acrobatics act right now. What exactly is going on?
Grace, that's a perfect way to put it. The core of this crisis, according to reporting from India Times and Politico, stems from aggressive policy shifts, particularly concerning student visas. We're seeing a significant crackdown, especially on Chinese students. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced the U.S. will, quote, aggressively revoke, end quote, visas for certain Chinese students, specifically targeting those with purported connections to the Chinese Communist Party, or studying in what are deemed, quote, critical fields, end quote. This is meant to prevent espionage and intellectual property theft, according to the administration's justifications.
Quote, critical fields, end quote, sounds quite broad. Has the administration provided any clarity on what these terms mean?
Not much, Grace, and that's part of the concern. The exact definition of, quote, critical fields, end quote, remains vague, but analysis in the specific operational status summary suggests it includes areas like semiconductor engineering and aerospace. The lack of clarity has only fueled uncertainty. We've already seen at least one visa application reportedly rejected without specific reason, and China has condemned the decision as discriminatory, lodging a formal protest with the U.S., according to India Times and Politico.
So, revocations are happening. What about new students trying to come to the U.S.? Are they also being affected?
Absolutely. In a move that has further complicated matters, the Trump administration ordered U.S. embassies worldwide to halt the scheduling of new student visa interviews for FM and J student and exchange visitor visas. This temporary pause, reported by CBS News, NPR, and the Los Angeles Times, is ostensibly to prepare for an expansion of social media vetting for all applicants. While it doesn't affect already scheduled interviews, it could cause significant delays for those planning to enroll in upcoming academic terms.
Expanded social media vetting. That sounds like a digital dragnet. What are the concerns surrounding that?
Indeed, Grace, the exact nature of this expanded social media screening and what content will be targeted hasn't been specified. However, there are significant concerns, reported by Politico, that it may target students who have shown solidarity with Palestine online. This move has been linked to executive orders aimed at combating terrorism and anti-Semitism, with the State Department emphasizing that, quote, every visa adjudication is a national security decision, end quote, according to the specific operational status summary.
This sounds like it's creating a very unwelcoming atmosphere on campuses. What's the impact on U.S. universities and the students themselves?
It's fostering an environment of profound fear and anxiety. Many international students and faculty are now hesitant to speak publicly for fear of retaliation, leading to a, quote, chilling effect, end quote, on free speech and academic freedom, according to General Synthesis text. Critics have even labeled this, end quote, ideological deportation policy, end quote, with reports of over 1,800 students having their legal status terminated for minor infractions or unclear reasons, some linked to pro-Palestinian views. Economically, international students are crucial, contributing an estimated $44 billion to the U.S. economy in the 2023 to 2024 academic year. A significant drop in their enrollment, as warned by the General Synthesis text, could severely impact university budgets.
That's a massive financial blow, not just an academic one. And you mentioned the term, quote, brain drain, end quote, earlier. Can you elaborate on what that means in this context? Now, I understand the administration justifies these measures on national security grounds, but how are critics responding to these justifications?
The administration cites concerns about espionage and intellectual property theft, with Secretary Rubio specifically stating the visa revocations are part of an, quote, ongoing effort to protect our homeland from espionage and other hostile actions, end quote, as noted in the specific documented National Security Incidents Summary. President Trump has also vowed to ban, quote, Christian-hating communists, Marxists, and socialists, end quote, from the country. However, critics argue these policies are intentionally vague, particularly regarding, quote, connections to the Chinese Communist Party, end quote, fostering widespread uncertainty. Leaders in the Chinese American community have condemned the targeting of Chinese students as xenophobic and discriminatory, as reported by General Synthesis Text. Many believe the real aim is a broader crackdown on campus activism and ideological expression, particularly concerning pro-Palestine views.
We've also heard Harvard University is directly in the crosshairs of this policy. What's happening there?
That's right, Grace. The Trump administration has specifically targeted Harvard, accusing it of being too liberal and failing to combat anti-Semitism, even, quote, coordinating with the Chinese Communist Party, end quote, according to the specific operational status summary. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem notified Harvard that its certification in the Student and Exchange Visitor Program, or SEVP, was being canceled. This would prevent Harvard from enrolling F1 or J1 visa students for the 2025 to 2026 academic year.
That sounds like a huge blow. How has Harvard responded?
Harvard immediately filed a lawsuit challenging the revocation. A federal judge, Allison D. Burroughs, initially granted a temporary restraining order, blocking the administration's attempt to cut off Harvard's ability to enroll foreign students, citing, quote, immediate and irreparable injury, end quote. And just yesterday, on May 29, 2025, Judge Burroughs indicated she would issue a longer-term preliminary injunction to maintain the, quote, status quo, end quote, while the case proceeds. While the DHS appeared to walk back its initial decertification, giving Harvard 30 days to prove it meets SEVP requirements, Judge Burroughs expressed her intent to proceed with a court order to provide certainty for students. Harvard's lawsuit argues the administration's actions are retaliatory and violate its First Amendment rights.
It sounds like an ongoing legal saga. Are there any specific documented national security incidents that directly triggered these sweeping policies?
While the Trump administration broadly cites national security, espionage, and theft of technology as justifications, specific publicly documented national security incidents involving international students in early 2025 that directly and solely triggered these sweeping policies are not clearly detailed, according to the specific documented national security incident summary. The justifications are more general and tied to ongoing concerns, like alleged incidents such as a Chinese student flying drones over Newport News shipbuilding in January 2024, or the indictment of Leon Ding for allegedly stealing AI secrets from Google. The expanded social media vetting also builds on earlier efforts, with reports from March 2025 indicating enhanced vetting linked to a broader crackdown on pro-Palestinian demonstrations.
So the situation is still very much in flux. Ethan, thank you for breaking down this complex and concerning issue for us.
My pleasure, Grace.
And that's story one of two that we're covering this morning. We'll be right back after the break. California is known for its progressive policies, but today we're looking at a proposed reversal that could have profound implications for its most vulnerable residents. We're talking about Governor Gavin Newsom's plan to reinstate strict asset limits for Medi-Cal eligibility, a move sending ripples of concern through elderly and disabled communities across the state. For the full story, we turn to our reporter, Chloe.
That's right, Grace. This controversial proposal, part of Governor Newsom's May 2025 budget, aims to bring back an asset test for Medi-Cal, California's version of Medicaid. thousands of low-income seniors and individuals with disabilities could lose essential health coverage if their savings or property exceed certain limits. Health advocates, according to calmatters.org via Reddit and the Orange County Register, are calling this draconian, fearing deeper poverty for vulnerable residents.
Chloe, an asset test sounds like something from a bygone era. Can you elaborate on the history of these limits and why California decided to remove them?
Absolutely, Grace. For decades, Medi-Cal imposed such a test. Historically, a single person could only have $2,000 in countable assets and a couple $3,000. These included savings and cash, though a primary home and one car were exempt, as reported by abc10.com. Critics argued these low limits trapped people in poverty, preventing them from saving for emergencies just to keep their health coverage. It was a wealth of health paradox. Recognizing these concerns, Governor Newsom began a phased elimination. In July 2022, Assembly Bill 133 significantly raised the limit, making over 12,000 individuals newly eligible, according to ca.gov. This culminated in full elimination of the asset test on January 1, 2024. California became the first and currently only state to base Medi-Cal eligibility primarily on income, not assets. Forbes.com and eldercareresourceplanning.org highlighted this as a significant step for healthcare equity.
So if California was leading the charge in removing these limits, what's prompting Governor Newsom to propose bringing them back now?
That's the budget conundrum, Grace. According to the Orange County Register and abc10.com, the governor's May 2025 revised budget attributes this reversal to higher than anticipated enrollment after the asset test was eliminated. Instead of 40,000 new enrollees, the state saw over 112,000 new members, leading to nearly $500 million more in costs for that group alone. Reinstating the old limits, effective no sooner than January 1, 2026, is projected to save the state around $94 million in the 2025 to 2026 budget year and over $500 million annually thereafter, including impacts on in-home supportive services, or IHSS, as noted by ca.gov.
Those are significant figures, but draconian certainly paints a stark picture of the potential human cost. What are health and disability rights advocates saying, and what real-world impacts could it have on Californians?
Advocates are sounding the alarm, Grace, with groups like Betsadec and Disability Rights California vehemently urging lawmakers to reject this. They argue a $2,000 asset limit is impossibly low in California, where rent alone often exceeds that. An estimated 112,000 current Medi-Cal members could lose coverage, according to abc10.com and ca.gov. We've heard poignant examples, like Cinda Soto, a quadriplegic who risks losing vital caretakers due to an $8,000 inheritance. Critics argue forcing individuals to spend down savings is unjust, as they often requalify later with worsened conditions requiring more expensive care. Furthermore, Grace, Justice and Aging and abc10.com highlight that losing access to preventative and in-home care costing about $25,400 annually could lead to reliance on costly emergency services or nursing home placements, exceeding $114,000 annually. There's also the senior cliff, where individuals could lose eligibility upon turning 65 due to these stricter asset rules, even if their situation hasn't changed. The County Welfare Directors Association of California has also warned about administrative burdens, stating system changes cannot be completed by the proposed January 1, 2026 effective date.
It truly sounds like a tough pill to swallow for many, both fiscally and personally. So where does Governor Newsom's proposal stand now in the legislative process?
As of today, May 30, 2025, Governor Newsom's proposal is under review by the California State Legislature as part of the 2025 to 2026 budget process, according to ca.gov. While subcommittees have reviewed it, no legislative votes have occurred yet to finalize the budget, which faces a hard deadline of June 15th. That's just 16 days away, Grace. Disability rights advocates and organizations like California Health Advocates are actively urging lawmakers to reject the proposal and instead pursue alternative revenue solutions. It's a real balancing act between fiscal constraints and protecting the health of the state's most vulnerable.
Indeed, Chloe. This is a story we'll be watching closely as that budget deadline approaches. Thank you for shedding light on this crucial issue and giving us such a comprehensive look. It's certainly a financial tightrope for many Californians.
My pleasure, Grace.
Here are some other headlines. Oil companies are feeling the heat, facing a groundbreaking wrongful death lawsuit in Washington state. Misty Leon is suing 7 oil giants, including ExxonMobil and Shell, alleging their decades-long deception about climate risks led to her mother Julie's death from hyperthermia during Seattle's record 108-degree heat wave in 2021. The suit claims this extreme heat was directly linked to fossil fuel-driven climate change, which scientists say made the event virtually impossible otherwise. Chevron calls the suit an exploitation, but the legal climate is clearly shifting, and the globe itself is a hotspot. A new study reveals half the world's population, 4 billion people, endured at least an extra 30 days of extreme heat between mid-2024 and mid-2025 due to human-caused climate change. Researchers found climate change's fingerprint on 67 global extreme heat events, doubling dangerously hot days in most countries. This silent killer causes widespread illness and death, with experts warning the temperature keeps rising with every barrel of oil burned, following 2024, the hottest year on record. In aviation, Boeing is trying to land a deal with the Justice Department to dismiss a criminal fraud charge from the 2 737 MAX crashes that killed 346 people. Boeing would pay over $1.1 billion and admit to obstructing the FAA. This comes after Boeing reportedly violated a previous $2.5 billion settlement, highlighted by a 737 MAX door panel blowout in January, and a judge rejected an earlier plea deal over DEI concerns. Many victims' families are incensed, calling it a quote, sweetheart deal and demanding a trial. A federal judge now holds the flight plan. President Trump has also been busy, wielding his pardon pen for rapper NBA YoungBoy, reality TV stars Todd and Julie Chrisley, former GOP Congressman Michael Grimm, and Gangster Disciples co-founder Larry Hoover, among over 1,500 pardoned since January 2025, including some January 6th rioters. Critics decry pardons for loyalists that bypass traditional review, while the White House defends them as rectifying, quote, harsh treatment. Pardons for those in the Governor Whitmer kidnapping plot are reportedly also under consideration. Finally, some red state voters are finding their progressive ballot initiatives hitting a legislative wall. In states like Missouri and Florida, Republican lawmakers are working to undermine or reverse voter-approved measures on abortion access and sick leave. It's quote, says yes, legislature says no way. Methods include making future initiatives harder to pass or outright repealing voter decisions. For instance, a Florida abortion rights measure failed despite majority support due to a supermajority rule. Critics call it an attack on direct democracy, while proponents cite preventing outside influence. The battle between the ballot box and State House continues. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King, with Claude Sonnet 4.0, Gemini Pro 2.5, Gemini Flash 2.5, and Google Cloud Text-to-Speech. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.